Hello, and my name is Peter Rushmer, and I'm your host today of a Half Dozen Things podcast. A Half Dozen Things is a podcast for business owners and professionals just like you. Whether you're an underdog hungry for success or you're already smashing it but want to continue to level up, we're here each week for you to get insight and learning from the very best in the business. No fluff, no BS, and no self-proclaimed gurus talking about how easy business or life is. Just real, frank, and raw conversations. Hi listeners, I'm delighted to be joined today by Chris Holloway of Motorway Buddy. Motorway Buddy was created 10 years ago and it's created by drivers for drivers. Do you know what? Chris is such an awesome guy. He's really genuine and I really enjoyed interviewing him on today's session. So please do listen in. I hope you enjoy it. Fantastic episode. Catch you all soon. I'm joined today by Chris Holloway from Motorway Buddy. I've been trying to get Chris on the podcast for a little while. Obviously, he's a busy guy and he's out there, and we nearly actually had to postpone our recording this afternoon and reschedule because that's life on the road, right? You know, so yeah. But do you know what? Chris? If you could just introduce yourself for the listeners, that'd be fantastic, and let them know a little bit about Motorway Buddy as well. We'll kick it off like that.
Yeah, no problem. Well, thanks for having me on for a start. We started Motorway Buddy. I started as a driver in blimey, a long time ago. I can't even remember. 20 years ago, basically driving for MFI, delivering MFI goods. I started right back at the very, very beginning with sort of 7.5 tons and Sprinter vans and all that type of thing, and progressed through logistics. I've been in it since I was 19, sort of map reading, and it's all I've ever really known. So wanted to carry on and got my class licenses. And then sort of I just started seeing problems in the industry whilst I was driving. I finished up driving chemical tankers and tankers full of pressurized hydrogen and liquid nitrogen, and not necessarily something that you want to park at the side of the road and sleeping overnight comfortably anyway. So I was looking for places to park, looking for safe places to park, couldn't find any. So basically got together with a couple of people and put together an idea of designing an app to help truck drivers originally find safe places to park. That was in 2011. Fast forward 10 years, it's progressed a lot more. So it's an app now that shows truck drivers where safe places are. It shows the functions of the truck stops. It's got a compliance management tool on it. It's got a freight crime hotspot map on it of all the freight crime from the UK currently. We're trying to get information for Europe, but it's getting the data from Europe that's the problem. Yeah, it's come a long way. 128,000 downloads, 3.5 million times it's been used or something like that. So it's all right from an idea.
Amazing. Yeah, no, that's amazing. And to be honest, like I had a statistic come through. I was literally just looking for it whilst you were talking there. But I had a statistic come through from my friend Leslie O'Brien. I don't know if you come across her, but she runs Freight People. Yep. And Leslie emailed earlier. They're looking at motorway crime and hotspots for HGV crime. And those that are listening who are drivers will know, obviously, how much of a challenge that is. But I don't think the public know how tricky that is. 95 million quid a year. It's a lot of money, isn't it? That's a lot of money. That's a lot of theft.
It is, and that sort of the theft there comes down onto the prices generally, because the money's got to be recouped from somewhere, which is where, I mean, I'm working with insurance companies who are trying to sort of pinpoint not just the massive crime, it's the smaller crimes as well. So the fuel thefts, the curtain slashes, it all, you know, as far as financials are concerned, all the money's got to come from somewhere, and eventually it comes out of the general public's pocket because prices for everything gets more expensive.
Exactly.
So it's but no, it's huge, and the more, I suppose, people don't like lorries parking in areas because they look at it and they think they look ugly, but basically people are asleep when those things, when the lorries drivers are asleep, so are the people. But
Exactly.
I suppose if you don't know, everything comes on the back of a lorry, clothes, food, everything that, computers, what we're talking on now, everything comes on the back of a lorry. So, if it wasn't for us as a team, because I am a lorry driver as well, you wouldn't have anything. And that's not being, we're all great. It's being absolutely practical. That's just the way these things are. So
it's a vital thing to consider, and I think the public don't really give the gratitude in the UK. I think that's probably one of the biggest gripes from many drivers around the country, is that they, in other countries there's a lot more respect paid potentially. And I'm not saying that's the case for every member of the public in the UK, but I think it's quite easy to feel downtrodden with the state of the infrastructure that we've got. Poor facilities, poor investment. It's a tough gig, long hours. Staying away from home. It's not easy, is it? And obviously, Motorway Buddy's there to just sort of lift that and make it better, right? And improve things.
I say it's built sort of for drivers, by drivers for drivers. Then, if you like, so in it we built a sort of social media element, so drivers could leave comments for other drivers to read, and various, like I say, you can look at the facilities and drivers can make comments about the facilities, give it star ratings for an individual site that's on the app.
It's almost like TripAdvisor.
It is. It's the TripAdvisor for the haulage industry. There you go. But it's a. Do you know what? It's unfair to say that all of the truck stops are bad, because some of them are absolutely outstanding. The Red Lion, the Stockyard. There is Chipper and Pit Stop, who do an awful lot sort of for driver health and well-being. So they have defibrillator there. Hopefully, you wouldn't need it, but sort of mental health awareness, and those three just spring to mind. There's places like Rugby Truck Stop that have huge facilities there for drivers. They're all really, and some of the likes of Welcome Break have built Rothwell Truck Stop, which is specifically for it's for trucks. It's just specifically for trucks. So whereas your normal Welcome Break sites are just sort of for everybody, Rothwell's for specifically trucks. But some of them aren't as good. I'm not going to. I'll name the bad ones.
Let's not get into the catcalling and naming and shaming. Right? Okay,
there are some good ones.
Let's talk about the journey then of Motorway Buddy and sort of how it's evolved over time. So you're 10 years in now, and what started off as like finding somewhere to stop. Just sort of talk me through the sort of what's kind of happened as the product has developed and as the service has developed, because you've taken feedback from people, haven't you, and then kind of evolved the offering to be what it is that it is now 10 years on. So just sort of talk us through how that's changed, mate.
Yeah, no, it started off, as I say, as I was parked on the A9 hoping to God to find somewhere, and couldn't, scared to death about driving down a road basically, and couldn't, if I couldn't turn around. So it literally was just found where I was as a driver, and showed me my closest truck stop. That was in its original form. So the original one looked nothing like the one that we've got now. And we did. We've sort of it moved on from, as I say, just the place finder to what other people wanted and what haulage companies wanted as well. It's not just about the driver, albeit it was. I say that's who it's for primarily. But like you said, the social media element, so drivers can leave driver comments. We added, I say it's sort of a driver-friendly compliance management system into it. So it's more of you can do freight crime reporting, you can do load sort of reporting. So if, for example, when it was horrific, I've told this tale a few times. It was built in, the load reporting tool was built in. I used to work for Daxa, and it was around Christmas time, and somebody had not necessarily secured, as well as they possibly could, let's say, 6 pallets of wine, and they'd applied the brake possibly a little bit too hard and shifted 6 pallets of wine into 6 pallets of smashed glass, and just a huge puddle all over and it was in the actual depot where it happened. So, and there was no way really of being able to record that other than me telling you the tale as it is now. And I just thought, and I'd seen people with like a plastic bag with a throwaway camera in it and a piece of paper and a pencil. I thought, this is just ridiculous. We don't need, we've moved on since disposable cameras. So that's why the load reporting stuff was built into it. So you can take pictures and you can write a little description as if you were taking a text message. I mean, people put these things on social media all the time. So they're using the phone. The thought process was they are using the phones already to do this. Yeah. So, why, and it's going all over Facebook, it's going all over Twitter or whatever. The haulage companies need that. That's who need it. It's not that Facebook and Twitter don't need it. The haulage company need this information. So that was that. It was the same with the sort of clandestine reporting. So it's there to support the driver as well. So the driver can take it, say, for example, he's starting in Marseille or something, southern France or whatever, and he's driving from France to Manchester. He can sort of plot his path all the way, taking pictures to show where he's taking his picture, because obviously the phone grabs the GPS, the time. So if anybody questions the driver and, where did he stop and all this type of thing, it's like, well, it's all there for you. So there's nothing that, if somebody sort of attacks the driver, there's nothing the driver can do about that. He's not attacked. He's not asked to be attacked. Yeah, however, he is covering all corners basically when he gets back. And these are all just small things that you think, oh, I could add that. Oh, I could add that. I've been recently contacted by the British Parking Association, because they're talking about putting a standard in for truck parking, or for truck parks in general, which is required really, so at least you know where you're going. And I've said to them,
and the last thing you want, sorry, I was just going to say, because I know it's going to make a lot of people laugh, there's nothing worse than turning up to your truck bay and there's a van in it.
That's it, a van or a caravan. I'm not, and I don't want to upset caravanners.
I can hear the listeners literally going, for F's sake.
Yeah. No, it's no. But that's, it's the same thing that we say when you see a caravan in a wagon space. So
you got bank holiday weekend, mate. You got to love it.
That's it. That's what I mean. Yeah, it says coaches. It's coaches for a reason. HGV for a reason. But they're so they're looking at they're doing a sort of a standard. Like, so we've said, right, we'll work with you on that, and we can add that to the app. So there's always bits and pieces where you can just, I don't know, like I say, it starts off tiny and it just grows and grows and grows and grows. And I don't know what it'll be like in 10 years' time. If I mean, I started off with a head full of hair and now I've gone on. So it was, but I don't know. It became, it started off as kind of an idea, and now it becomes, I don't know, it's like a hobby as well as a job, as well as it's something that I don't know, I just fell into. And
I love that. Talk me through sort of the commercial side of it. So from a technical point of view, you've got an app which you've built and you've developed over time. It does some really cool stuff now. So from a commercial point of view, what is it commercially that the operators are looking at? Because what's great about this product is that it's been designed by a driver and drivers for drivers, right? And often the actual company themselves are often driven by compliance and driven by cost and what have you. But actually, the product's a great product as well. So what is it commercially that's viable, and what are the operators? How are they sort of approaching it? What's useful for them?
Well, again, this is the thing. It's something that we built, like you say, by a driver for drivers. But it was, again, it helps the driver. So one of my biggest problem was when I was driving, and again, when I was driving gas around, is that I didn't have any money. I had nothing. I was 25 and I was away Monday to Friday and went out at weekend, and that was my that's what I did. And I got married.
Plenty of drives out there the same, right?
Yeah, well, that's it. Yeah, like I said, I got married then, and then it all kind of stopped. But but no, we sort of looked at it and thought, yes. So there is a park. There's a payment system in it. So haulage companies can have an account. So similar to, there are other accounts out there, but you can pay for your parking on it. The truck stops can use it for their system. So there's no other digital marketing platform for truck stops. They're in magazines and stuff like that. But I mean, I'm not quite sure how the print industry is going as late, but I don't think it's quite as profitable as it once was. So it's
I'm laughing because I totally understand, totally agree as well. Do you know what? If they're listening, I'd love to get the commercial motor guys on. I'd absolutely love to get them on and have a chat. But yeah,
it's a funny. Do you know what? It's a funny. It's a very, when I first started, and no word of a lie, like I said, I mean, the iPhone started in 2007. It feels like feels like it's been there all your life.
100%.
But it really hasn't. And the first thing that I was asked when I started in 2011, early February 2011, I started. And the first thing that somebody said to me was, "Do truck drivers have smartphones?" And it's that mentality of the hairy ass trucker, if you like, sort of sat behind his wheel plodding along with not much of an idea other than how to steer something. And it's just, everybody, but it's what.
And there might be a few out there, just a disclaimer, there may be a few.
There are, but they're an aging population. This is the other sticking point, is that we need a sort of younger drivers to come into the industry, which is, again, what the app hopefully helps. It shows younger drivers, a younger audience. They're not going to pick up a magazine and go, "Oh, I'll have a flick through this to look at a one square advert of, where it is with an address." They want more than that. There's always so much more than that. And they are on Facebook and they are on social media, but it's more of a, so the truck stops can, in answer to your question, the truck stops have got the social media sort of outlet, if you like. So the drivers can leave comments, the truck stops see those comments, they can reply to those comments. And again, like you say, the trip advisor element of it, there is I try to sort of pitch it as the haulage companies helping themselves as well as the driver. So by looking at the freight crime hotspot maps and stuff like that, you are giving the driver something that is useful for you, but at the same time, the driver wants to park and feel safe regardless of what he's carrying, because there's this thing about drivers making sure they don't post all over social media about what they've got on the back of them. Well, to be honest with you, you don't see that very often. Drivers don't post all over social media, "I've got a trailer full of toilet roll," or "I've got a trailer full of pork," or they just don't. They more, "I hope full of this driver's all right." Or there was something yesterday, there was a driver somewhere who's had a heart attack and died. And it's kind of it's a myth, really, that everybody starts going, "Oh, you should see what I've got on the back of here." It's like, well, they're not going to, because people will come and, if you say, "I've got a lot of MacBooks or something like on the back of your trailer," then you are asking to be, robbed, basically.
100%. I totally agree with you. I've never seen anyone do that. I think a lot of what's out there is about companionship and friendship and camaraderie and plenty of polishing for those that enjoy that as well.
Oh yeah, they love it. Love a good polish. Love a good polish.
What else is there to do? What else is there to do on a 45?
Well, you know what? You're right, though. It's a very, very. It depends what kind of character you are. I can be on my own and be all right, but there are times, and especially recently, with COVID and what have you, there were even less drivers on the road. Everybody's sort of been sat in the house on their own, feeling, "Oh God, I'm on my own all the time," and it's a bit boring. Well, drivers do that every day. That there are some lads. I mean, I'm not surprised they're antisocial. They've been doing it since 25 to 65, 40 years of being on your own. I don't think I'd want to speak to anybody after them. You'd forget how to. but it can be a very lonely place. So, like you say, the likes of social media and what have you, it gives. Yeah, like I say, it's a funny industry, but
it is when you think about it. 45 standard rest off, and of that 45, you're spending a great proportion of it sleeping. Because But how much socialising you actually getting? You might get like an afternoon and an evening socialising a week, and that's it.
Yeah, no, it's a
Nuts, really, isn't it?
my I say, well, if I start sometimes at, well, Monday, I went in at, because I drive as well still. I went down to Smithfield Markets. So I started at 2:45. So by the time I got back home, I was a massive cup of coffee to try and sustain the next 2 hours of being awake, and couldn't wait to go to bed at 8 o'clock. So it's, again, an understanding wife and a 3-year-old who goes to bed before me, I'm all right. So when she gets a bit older, I'm in
you're going
trouble.
to be going to bed. It will only be a couple of years, and you're going to bed before she does.
No, yeah.
Amazing. Okay, cool. So what does the future hold for Motorway Buddy? What are you planning? Sort of, are you looking to sort of mass grow it, or is it who are you competing with, and how are you trying to sort of put it out there?
The market, it's a funny market. There have been other apps that have come along, who've, when I say try to do the same, they have done the same. There are other apps that have sort of used the drivers to pinpoint locations of sort of, just where to stop laybys and the like, which is fine if that's what other drivers want. Mine, Motorway Buddy doesn't do that. Motorway Buddy just shows safe-ish and secure truck stops, proper truck stops. Then, if you like, I wouldn't claim that they're all safe, but that's the idea.
It's not your responsibility.
No, it's not, and I'm not taking it for 300 plus truck stop safety. That's I'm asking for a world of trouble. But the it's to grow it. I'd like to try and make a bit of a difference, as I've said, as I said before. I think if you can bring younger people into the industry and show that there is more to it than sort of just steer. I mean, some of the wagons, when I first started driving wagons, and it's not, it's 20 years ago, it's not sort of that long. They've come just in leaps and bounds. I think I drove an ERF EC11 was my first wagon that I drove. I don't know if you ever had a go in one. But it was a manual box with a sort of 4x4 with a splitter on it. For all drivers that'll know what that is.
All the old boys will be going, yeah, I'll drive one of them.
Yeah, but I did, and that's what I learned how to drive in. And now the new ones are just like, they're out of this world. They really are.
You got an iShift that will give any BMW and Merc car a run for its money.
Well, this is it. Well, I'm not quite sure about that, but it's a decent box. But no, it's. I think as well we've done well. We've created partnerships with. So from an idea, you get all the way to sort of, like you say, we're in the group with Leslie. We have joined with the National Police and NAVSIS and the TT Club, who are the insurer. I think it's 80% of the world's ship freight cargo. Don't hold me to that, but it's a hell of a lot. So that's how we did all this through lockdown, which is, a bit weird, really, because some people will be sat there thinking, oh, I don't know what to do with myself. Whereas he's like, well, use it as an opportunity. It was, you don't just sit there, you've probably got a little bit of extra time on your hand that you didn't have before. So we created this partnership with NAVSIS and the TT Club, and one can't exist without the other. So the TT Club is the insurance company. NAVSIS hosts the freight crime data, and obviously we get the freight crime data direct from the police. So to grow it and sort of to create that, to help the industry, basically, I think by the more and more people we have, not necessarily directly through Motorway Buddy, but if we can sort of raise the profile of freight crime and if that raises the profile of Motorway Buddy at the same time, then brilliant. But if it helps, I've been in the industry 20 years. I don't know anything else. I didn't necessarily excel at school, or probably even go to school half the time. But I suppose you just, if you can make a bit of a difference, which it has clearly. It gets used, like say, 40, 50,000 times a month. So if somebody's using it, it's helping somebody, and if something else is bound to crop up and somebody's going to go, why don't you do this? And I'll go, oh yeah, that can go in the app. And then, but I think it's being shown, the TT Club are definitely showing it to the European market coming up. So we were chatting with Tapper, who are, if don't ask me what it stands for, but they're a big sort of, they look after the likes of Samsung, Apple, so they look after the customers rather than the haulage companies. So as far as freight crime's concerned as well, so they're introducing Motorway Buddy to Tapper, who I've spoken to, and the likes of DHL, and who else is there? There's a few. Awesome. Schenkers. So the European market, basically, if we can get into the European market, that'd be brilliant. But it's a funny thing because it started off as an idea, and I never really expected it to get, past an idea. And now I'm sat talking to you, which is
here it is. Yeah, exactly right.
Exactly. 10 years later, it's still going.
One of the things I wanted to tap into, because drivers are generally a shy bunch, genuinely speaking.
Yes.
Generally a shy bunch. So it's amazing to have someone of your experience on it. And I guess my first question, I'm going to ask you your best story, but I'll give you a little bit of time to think of that. What's the biggest thing, what's the biggest thing that fucks you off about the industry at the moment? What's the biggest, most annoying thing?
Attitude towards drivers. It really, really, really pisses me off. I read something on social media yesterday. It was on LinkedIn, actually. Do you think money, is the biggest problem in the industry? And in some places it's bloody awful, especially what it costs you to get a license now, to get your class 1. I think my class 1, my mum paid for mine. It was about $2,000, I think. And now, by the time you finish with all the extra bits and bats that you've got to do, it's bloody expensive. And to start saying, well, I'll give you 10 quid an hour if it's going to cost you $5 and $6 grand to actually do it, and people will say, well, I can do it for this. It's like, yeah, but if you fail your test, you're not going to pass every time, and you're not going to pass every time. So but the attitude of people towards drivers is absolutely appalling, and always has been. It always has been. Like you say, it's become a people realize that you don't get anything without wagon drivers. And when at the beginning of the pandemic, I was like, oh, they're still going out. And I had 2 weeks off last year because my mum died. That was it. Nothing to do with the pandemic. We just kept working because we were working with food, and people need food.
Yep.
All of a sudden the cars go back on the road, and it's like, oh, these bloody wagons are all over the place. And it's like,
as I say, heroes for 5 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And do you know what?
Now, though, long gone.
Whilst I've got a platform, things like the jab, the jabs which like I said, I didn't stop working, and I'm 43, so, and it's only by virtue of the fact that I have a friend who's actually a GP, and it was only 2 weeks ago as well, and he sent a WhatsApp to a group that I'm in and said, does anybody need or want a jab? And this is 2 weeks ago. And like I said, I worked all the way, all the drivers have worked all the way through the pandemic. And we just didn't come into any kind of anybody's mind when it came to the jab. Surely we're as important as teachers, for example, or, all right, we don't teach people anything. But again, you get down to the same thing, is why were we not certainly further up the ladder then, or things like that. And it's just damn frustrating. It really is. This
is a really good point, because it was kind of two-pronged there. So you got the attitude, and then you got sort of the remuneration as well. How do you think, and this is always, I find it a really good debate, because there are a lot of haulage companies who are out there that go out of business and aren't making a lot of profit, but there's some that are making a lot of profit. And I think, how do we go about increasing prices? Because ultimately, and therefore wages, because ultimately it will end up impacting on consumers.
Yes, it will. It is a good debate, and I'm not a politician. And there's a reason why I'm a truck driver. Stroke.
I just wonder, like, you know, where it's tricky, isn't it? It's tricky because
it is. But you see,
to be able to pay more, companies got to be more profitable. And I see there's a lot of really good, honest, hard-working transport company owners out there. And when you look at the amount of capital investment required, which they could easily take out and maybe put into another business, you know, say for argument's sake, they've got £1 million worth of tackle, and the amount of profit that £1 million and all the risk that goes with it and everything else, that £1 million, like, you know, obviously that's a nice position to be in, to have the money to invest in that. But if you kind of took it out of transport and put it into something else, for example, I don't know, tech or software or whatever it may be, and potentially the return on that's going to be much greater. So I find that it's a tricky one, isn't it? It is a tricky one.
I did I can't remember now how many years ago. It was probably 4 or 5 years ago, with the Freight Transport Association, something called Solving the Driver Crisis. And I sat on a panel, and again, if I was out of my depth, sort of at the beginning, it was horrific, absolutely horrific. But it was somebody asked me a question. This kind of probably boils into the good story as well, although it was nerve-wracking as hell. Somebody from the FTA rang me up and said, "Will you be on a panel?" And what I thought they meant by panel at the time, I'd never been asked before. No, you know, it was sort of right, absolutely fine. So I thought on a panel that what they meant was sort of sit around a table and discuss solving the driver crisis. So I was like, yeah, no problem, no worries at all. It's at the Rico Arena in Coventry, on whatever date it was. I said, right, yeah, no danger. I'll pop down and come and sit with you. So got there, and they said, right, you're on at 1:30, something like that, straight after lunch. I was like, oh, right, okay, thinking still not much of an idea about being on anywhere. I don't know what you're on about really, but you know, that's fine. I'm on at 1:30. So everybody goes off for the lunch. So they said, oh, just sit there. So anyway, the auditorium of 600-700 people fills up, and I see this panel of tables at the top of at the front. I was like, you are kidding me. You know, that's no. So I'm flicking through the menu, if you like, of everything that was, you know, as people are coming up. So the first shift after lunch is always hard because nobody can be, you know, everybody's full of sandwiches and
absolutely. You know, everyone's on a carb coma.
Yeah, exactly. So they sat up. So they said, "Oh, right, and right, you're on." And I sat with, there was me, somebody from MAN, a union guy, and a couple of hauliers. I can't remember what it was. And I was that scared. Somebody had said to me, if you get worried, have a drink. If you can't think of anything to say, have a drink of water. So I sat there, and thankfully enough, in front of the table, there was a cloth, so you couldn't see my feet. Honestly, if I could have run away, it was like something out of Roadrunner. I was absolutely shitting myself. And they said, if you can't think of anything to say, which is unusual, have a drink of water. And there's a bottle of water in front of me. I thought, right, brilliant. So somebody said, you know, what do you think? And I went, ask me a question. I picked up the bottle of water, took the lid off it, and I was that scared. The neck muscles, obviously in my neck, I couldn't move my head backwards to tip the water into my mouth. I was absolutely rigid. I was petrified. Anyway,
I'm sorry, I'm laughing, but you.
Honestly, it was horrific. I just didn't see it coming at all. And like I say, for somebody who's quite happy just sat in the truck by himself or talking on the phone or whatever, to sit in front of a load of people and who actually wanted my opinion, I was like, oh no, this could go horrifically wrong. Anyway, they asked me about sort of how, like you've just said, you know, how do you think you change things? And it was an odd question because, like you say, you've got MAN sat there, and MAN are producing, you know, you've got big shiny trucks, and you've got people who are saying they want more training for drivers, and they want more, like you say, more tech, and you've got all shiny uniforms and all that type of thing, which is great. But that is, it's very much all for the haulage company. The wagons, to a certain extent, I agree. The wagons are, you know, you want something that is reliable, you know, economical on fuel, all that type of thing, and you want your drivers to be well presented. But at the same time, there are companies who I've worked for who will remain nameless, who put a lot of money into training, and every time you sign something off to say that you've been trained on it, you were one step closer to being out the door if they wanted to get rid of you. And that was that was the general consensus of, this isn't for our benefit anymore. This is for their own benefit. But so yeah, it's a fine line, because if you pay 150 grand for a unit, the driver's then getting paid, less, because that's what you're paying out for, or whatever the leases are for Arctics. I don't know. I wouldn't have the first idea.
Money. They are mega money. The
vehicles, yeah, the big money, but
they're massive money. I think so one of the things I've always said, and we do our fair share of driver CPC training. We do mental health training and what have you. And one of the things that I've always said is it's a tricky economy. The transport sector is a tricky economy because it's so heavy on the capital investment and so much money up front, and the overheads are huge and the margins are generally quite low because it's competitive. So you'll always have the rule breakers who do come and go but are willing to undercut and be twats, and then you've got the big companies who literally will swallow up the smaller companies by getting them to subby. And I've seen it, it's a tale as old as time. The big companies subbying out smaller companies, getting them to grow, getting them to stretch, getting them to expose themselves more and more and more financially. And then all of a sudden, rate drop like that all of a sudden, and they're just too over leveraged, and it fucked them. And I think it's so odd because, and this is why I'm so passionate about it, is because there's so many guys out there who get a truck, give it a go, make a bit of dough, get a second vehicle and crack on, and they sort of grow their business sort of naturally and economically, and then all of a sudden they might get to 10, 15, 20 vehicles, and all of a sudden, like, there may be the comfort zones all of a sudden kind of gone, fucking hell, there's a lot of compliance here, there's a lot of stuff to do. But I think particularly with those hauliers, and I think it less so with the bigger blue chips and stuff, but I think with the small hauliers, and what I say to drivers is, like, if you can work as hard as possible to not damage your vehicle and to get the best possible fuel consumption, I think you're always in the best position to have a good discussion on rates.
Yeah.
If you're helping your owner be as profitable as possible, and you're sort of doing everything you can, because like the smallest margin in fuel consumption can make a huge difference over the year, can't it? And it's
over a fleet.
I think it's those things. I think that's where the savings are myself. I think that's where the savings are, because I think the challenge you've got is you've got the proper drivers who really take pride in what they do and delivering a great job. And then there's drivers who, do you know what, they'll take the lower wages and just crack on because they don't give a fuck, and that's fine.
Well, this it all boils back down to what I was saying before about attitude towards drivers, is that if you're good to them, they'll be good to you. Yeah. Whereas if you treat a driver like shit, he won't care what he does. Really, if he does, like you say, I'm very fortunate that I work, and I'm not going to name them, but I do work for a decent company who do treat the drivers well. They treat all the staff well, and because of that, I work hard for them. And you don't want to smash the truck up, and you don't want to, if you bang something, you feel guilty about it. If you bump something or whatever, you feel guilty about it. Whereas if you pay me 10 quid an hour, I'd still, because of the way I am, you still feel responsible for it. But there'll be a hell of a lot of people out there who won't, and I've seen it. You know yourself. It's like, if you only pay, there was something on, again, social media. You're only paying me 25 quid a night out, and the clown basically dropped the trailer on its knees. I don't know if you saw that. He basically he didn't wind the legs down. He said, if you're gonna pay me nothing, videoed it, on social media, and just pulled his truck out from under his legs and dropped the trailer on its knees. And of course, then that went back into the company that he was working for, and they sacked him. So, but it's that kind of attitude of like you say, it's not something I'd do personally.
Culture's everything, I think, in a company.
It is.
I think transport's a little bit overall. I think there's companies who are very good at it, and I think there's companies who have got some way to go. And I think, essentially, if you see drivers as a disposable resource, they're going to run out over time, because you know what? It's kind of enough is enough. And it isn't just about money, is it? It's about the conditions, how you're treated, how you're spoken to. what investments made in you, how you're treated about your training, how you're supported in your
It's all that. Yeah, definitely.
all of that is part of it, and also working for a reason, you know. And if it's part of greater good and you feel part of a family, then you know you're going to enjoy going to work and that sort of thing. It's going to be much better, isn't it?
It is indeed.
Awesome, mate. Do you know what? We've sort of come to the end of the time. We've kind of rushed in and we've had to like rush out. But do you know what? It's been genuinely awesome having you on and having a chat. I've really enjoyed it. And I enjoyed speaking to you when we initially met up on the phone and had the discussion. And it's just great to have you on and sharing your experience. Chris, just finally, just to sort of wrap it up, just let people know if they've just sort of started listening in or they've forgotten about what the app is and what it's about. Just reintroduce who you are, what the app is, where they can find it, and just let them know that, and then we'll cut it off and let people crack on with their day.
I'm the worst salesperson ever. So I'm
come on, man, you can do this.
Exactly. Oh God, he's really.
There you go. Just drink your water, mate. Don't worry about your neck muscles.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm at home now. I'm all right. I've got a beer in the fridge. Chris Holloway, driver who had an idea, and you can find Motorway Buddy on the Apple App Store and the Android App Store. It's free, and it's hopefully, if it helps drivers in all sorts of the parts of the industry, then you know what, that I'll be happy with that. That's all I want to do.
Amazing. That was a really good pitch, mate. You're so genuine. I love it.
I hope so, because well, listen, I work on it for nothing, and I've been doing it 10 years. So it's gone are the days where it's going to make me £1 million. I think that's well out the window. So
it's a labour of love, mate. I'm sure.
Indeed.
And hopefully people will listen, and hopefully they'll tune in and give it a go. So thank you everyone for listening. Everyone take care, stay safe, and catch you all soon, guys. I really hope you loved today's episode, and if you did, please make sure you subscribe and listen out for future episodes too. Please do share it across your social media channels. We hope to reach more and help more people. If you want to find out more about me, my name's Pete Rushmer. You'll find me across any social media channel and my business, Flagship Partners, and we're your partners in success across your business. Thank you. See you again soon.